You are watching Reed's Conversations, a podcast series on writing, filmmaking, acting, and theater. In this episode, I will have a conversation with actress, singer, and voice actress Hannah Grace. Hey everybody, welcome to Reed's Conversations, the podcast series on writing, filmmaking, acting, and theater. And I just had a great conversation with Hannah Grace. She's actually an old friend of mine, and it was great just being able to catch up with Hannah. She lives in Japan. Originally, she's from the USA, but her life and career is in Japan. And she's worked on several fantastic projects. Some of you may know, and if you've not, we're going to learn more about within this conversation with her. In the world of video games, as a voice actor, Hannah has worked on some franchise video games such as Metal Gear, Ultraman, Bomberman, INNAZUMA 11, CHIBI Godzilla, Final Fantasy, Castlevania Grimoire of Souls, and the list goes on and on and on with how much video games she's worked on. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because she's also an accomplished stage actress too. We talk about everything from the musicals she's been in, from high school, community theater, professional theater, as well as her TV and film work, and also her music career, singing. For those who probably know, if you're big anime fans, Hannah Grace sings the title song Memory Lane from Attack on Titan. And it was just wonderful with Hannah sharing that experience working on that project. It really meant a lot to her. It was just really, just honestly very touching. Just started talking about that experience, honestly, and I'm getting kind of emotional talking about it. So I can't wait for you to hear Hannah's description of it. Again, it was just really special, just her being able just being able to share of, just her love of acting and singing. So especially with Attack on Titan, the song Memory Lane. And then we also go into a TV show she's worked on. In 2014 in Japan, one of the very first, not the first, but in terms of one of the projects she got in Japan was a TV show called HANAKO to Anne. And for those who are not familiar with HANAKO to Anne, it is based on the true story about how the Japanese translation of the novel Anne of Green Gables, starring the character Anne Shirley that we all know and love, how that got translated for Japanese. And Hannah played the character Mrs. Scott. So it really meant a lot to Hannah, and we really talk about that project. Also notable projects such as Puny Runes, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And that was the English translation, or not translation, I should correct that. Hannah did the English-speaking version of Puny Runes, where she played the character Yuka. And that's a very big popular TV anime show. And my gosh, and it just goes on and on. I mean, we talk about a lot of great projects. So I'm very excited to share this conversation that I had with Hannah. And now, without further delay, please join me as I have a conversation with actress, singer, and voice actress Hannah Grace. All right, so I am with Hannah Grace. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast, Hannah.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, Reed.
Yeah, and before we were talking a little bit, we were kind of briefly
Yeah,
reminiscing about, just well, not a
how we
whole lot of,
met.
but yeah, like was it 20 years ago? This is we
It
it's
was
been
about 20 years ago, and it was through the Big River production from Fountain Square Players in Bowling Green.
That's
That's how Reed
right.
and I met. Mhm.
Yeah, it's crazy. 20 years. And currently, as of how we're recording right now, I'm in the US. It's Central Time, 8 o'clock, and you're in Japan, which is 10 o'clock in the
Yes,
morning.
yes. Thank you so much for letting me have a reasonable start time.
Oh yeah, because it's like, yeah, I want to give you a good reasonable start time. It's not like we're gonna start at 6 o'clock in the morning, but it's gonna be 3 in the afternoon at my time. I can't do that. I can't do that to you. But yeah, so this is exciting. So I guess
Mhm.
we'll kind of start at the beginning, because you've had a
Yeah.
great, just what I followed over your social media, you've had a really great career doing several things from acting, singing, voice acting, directing, which we'll go into more detail as we move along. But
Hmm.
let's kind of talk about the beginning of when you were a kid. Like, how did this love of the creative arts start? And I know that you have a brother named James Weekly who's also
Yes.
very into acting and the arts. So talk about just growing up of what you watched or listened to or plays you
Hmm.
attended. So what was kind of the acting bug, if you will? How did that all start?
I think it probably started with my mom, whose parents were artistic, and my grandfather was a really rather successful jazz pianist in the Kentucky area. He lived in Paducah and he was part of several jazz bands. So we always had a lot of art in the house and performance. I was raised on the classic MGM musicals, Singing in the Rain, and well, not just MGM, but like Carousel, Oklahoma, like all of them. I grew up with musicals just as a kind of a part of my cultural DNA. And so, fortunately, growing up in Bowling Green, it's a small, as you know, it's like a small town in Kentucky, but it's pretty rich, I found, when it comes to the local arts. Again, like we said, we met during a local production of Big River. So in school, I was always involved in choir. In my church, I was always involved in choir. And there were always those kids' productions in the schools that I went to for like Christmas or for the holidays. And I think that I discovered that I was about third grade. I was in third grade. We're going way back. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
So I was in third grade where every girl in the class was required to audition for a little girl playing Mary. It wasn't Mary, Jesus's mother. It was a little girl playing Mary in this little school play we were doing. Every girl was required to audition, and you had to pretend to be Mary who's about to give birth to a baby. And all of the little, and you're supposed to be yelling and in pain, and the little girls would be like, "Oh, ow!" And I was like, "What are they doing? Why are they? Why aren't they? That's not." And so I went for it like hardcore. I was like, I know what it sounds like when I know what it sounds like. I'd seen the birth videos of my brother, so I'm like, I know that's not what women sound like when they're in labor. I'm gonna sound like I'm in labor. And
Oh,
they did ask me to tone it down for the actual show, but I got the part.
oh my
And I did
gosh.
and I did speech competitions and stuff. And it was interesting because, you're young and you're thinking, what do I want to do? But for me, it wasn't this is what I want to do. As the more I did performance, the more it was just what I did. And so by the time I got to high school, where it got really serious because you have to think about your future and you have to think about university. I already knew that I was an actress. It wasn't a question of do I want to become one. It's like, well, I'm an actress, I'm a performer. So what do I do with that? And so that's where high school choir and high school musicals come in, and they're absolutely so integral to how people get funneled into these things. I swear, band, choir, all those programs. And there was such a vibrant scene when I was in high school back in the day. All of the high schools put on these huge productions, and I got to be in really great shows, plays, and musicals. And that was sort of like confirmed. And I also got to be a part of Governor's School for the Arts. I auditioned
Yes.
for Governor's School for the Arts in Kentucky, and I was accepted as a sophomore. I believe it's, yeah, as a sophomore, which was not as common. And it was at that place where I was in a more concentrated 3 week college style program that those college professors working with me as an actress kind of, well, one of them literally went, "You have a future." He pulled me away from the entire group. He set me aside after a monologue thing. He goes, "You have a future." And it
Wow.
was you kind of, when you have people say that to you, you go, okay, I'm going to take the risks it takes to see what it means to make a life in this. And so that's where it started. And then it was auditioning, which I did, and I got into some great schools. I ended up going to Ball State University,
Mhm.
studying theater there. It's and their programs, as far as I can tell, is just continues to get better. They put out a lot of really successful working performers, kids in my, grade as well. Kids, we're not kids anymore. But there have been a lot of people who've made really great careers and found their place from Ball State. And I was really given the skills because I had talent. So there's talent, but then there's skill. And
Hmm.
you really have to have both if you want to, if you really want to find your way, I think full time, you have to have both, and you have to have the discipline to get the skill. And so they gave me the skills, and those skills have actually paid off really hard in my careers here in Tokyo in ways that I didn't expect, to be honest. Um, but then the question is, I'm kind of spinning through. I guess you're just gonna let me. I'll
You're
just
good.
keep
You're
going
good.
with the story.
You're good.
But the question then becomes, okay, so you get the bug, you get the training, but what now? Because in university, you've got this environment, and then I was in Muncie and in Indiana, like it's basically as small a town as Bowling Green. So I had this great training, and like, what do I do? Because I can't work as an actress in Muncie. There's just not enough work. And that's not at all to knock local artists, I will say.
Yeah.
I will say that you can always act where you go. You can create it. You can tell stories. And I think local performers are incredibly important for local scenes. But if you want to make a full-time living, it's significantly harder just because the work is just not there in those locations.
Yeah.
Um, and then that was when things got, I guess you might say, a little unusual and unconventional when that question popped up. Where are you going to go? And when the answer was Japan, my professors did raise some eyebrows. And I guess we can talk if you want about why, like why,
Yeah,
how
because
we
also
got.
because what was the inspiration of going to Japan? Was it just what kind of led you on that odyssey, if you will, of trying to venture into uh not just working, but eventually having a home there? So what was the inspiration for
Yeah.
that?
Well, I think as a lot of artists do when they're in that developmental stage, because you're young, and when you're in high school, you're just like, I just want to act in anything. I love everything. And then you start to study, and you're like, I hate most of what we're doing. I don't like this play at all. Like, why am I here? And you go, well, if you want to do this full time, you're gonna, why? Like, what do you actually want to do, and why? And so I was in that pit of despair, like questioning everything. And I took some time off. I actually took a semester off in college. And fortunately, my professors in the situation, they were so lovely. I didn't like lose my scholarship. I didn't like lose my position. They were like, you know what, take some time off. You need to do this. And so I took some time off. When I came back, I kind of, it was a pondering process. And while I was pondering what's the point of my art, that's when I discovered Japanese media. So my it
Mm,
started with Howl's Moving Castle.
yes.
That was my
Miyazaki.
first. Oh my gosh. Yes, of course. I mean Miyazaki, he's and I swear I watched the DVD once with my friend, and then I went to Walmart and just bought it and watched it every day the next week. And I didn't realize how hard that actually is to just go to Walmart and buy a DVD of a
Yeah.
Miyazaki film. So it had just come out. And then it went to Fruits Basket, the anime, was the
Mhm.
next one that my same friend funneled to me. And what became interesting about that was I looked at the way they told stories, the way that they expressed emotion, the way that it was structured, even, it was very different than the Western style of storytelling. And that's a whole nother subject to get into, of how Japanese people tell stories as opposed to how Western people tell stories. And I found the Japanese way of storytelling so compelling and so much more resonant with myself. And I started to read novels. I watched a lot of Japanese TV shows, like just like live action TV shows. Of course, I got deep into manga and anime, and I went to anime conventions.
Uh,
And what really did it, I would say, is I finally found my spark again. I found the reason to want to act again. So I was, and of course, my theater professors were like, "Great, let's look at no, let's look at kabuki. Why don't you do a whole paper on this and that?" They were really lovely and encouraging around that. But what really helped me was, uh, I don't know, you might know who Chris Ayres is.
yeah, a little bit.
Oh, you
Yes,
might
I do.
not.
Yes, a
He
little
because
bit, a little.
he has passed on, unfortunately,
Um,
but he was actually a dear friend and mentor.
oh,
And
really? Okay.
I met him on the convention circuit. I was in
Really?
cosplay.
Wow. Okay. Well, my goodness.
But the thing is, I was in cosplay, and I was talking to somebody about the character. I was Tira from Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur 3 that time. And was telling somebody, he was sitting on the bench, on the other side of the bench, like with his back to where we were. And I was telling somebody one reason I like Tira is she reminds me, she has a Peter Panish quality to her. And then Peter Pan is like my favorite.
Oh,
Peter Pan is like my favorite, like one of my favorite books, stories, everything's of all time. And so that was one reason why I like her. He turns around, he goes, "That is my favorite musical to direct and to act in of all time." Like Chris Ayres is so, because he's a theater guy.
wow.
So his
Okay.
career in voice acting and directing in anime, of course, is what people know him for, voice of Frieza, Kay and Gantz and all that. But actually, he is in his bones a live theater guy. And we started chatting theater. And after that, at every convention, that was the time when Chris and I would just, we would talk shop. We would just,
Really?
and we would talk acting and we would talk. And he actually, a couple times, he brought me and some friends up to his hotel room at the convention to show us clips of his theater productions. Yes, I'm not
Whoa.
joking. Like he was like, "I want you to see
Wow.
this.
Oh my
I want you to see
gosh.
this," and I'm like, ah. So I saw like clips from his cabaret production, a whole bunch of stuff. He was a big influence, and it was around that time that I was finding myself that he said something to me that sticks forever, which was, "You are an actress. You will find the work if it's there, and if it's not, you'll make it. But the
Wow.
question is, where do you want to make a life?
Mm.
Where can you live? Because you will work. You'll make that happen. So much of the work though of being a performer is not your life. Like
Yeah.
your life is, I mean, like where can you go and live when you're not working basically?"
Yeah.
And when I heard that, it's like, well, where do I want to make a life? And I looked at all of the major cities in the States and I went, wow, no, that's not actually, none of those places are places that I would do well in. Like, I'm not talking about as an actress, I'm talking about as a person.
Yeah.
Like, it's, we have ways that we function. And I think that there are people that we're like soulmates with. I think there are places that we're soulmates with.
Yeah.
So I began to look at this Japan thing and go, could it be possible that Japan might be my soulmate place? But you don't know until you go.
Yeah.
So I finally booked a trip after um, college, after graduation. It was just a 1 month trip, but my gosh, I was so overwhelmed when I got here because people always say, "Oh, you'll be disillusioned. Oh, it's never as good as that." I'm like, "No, guys, you don't understand. This is like I feel like Tarzan who just discovered humans and realized his body was always meant to stand up this way. It's like this is
Wow.
how I function." Um,
Oh, that's
I
amazing.
was so excited I got sick.
Oh my gosh.
Read, I was sick for a month. I got bronchitis.
Oh my God.
My body couldn't handle it. It was like falling in love with a soulmate. And the same thing happened when I met my husband, by the way. I got really, really sick.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh my gosh.
But the hard part was then coming back. That was a 1 month thing. I had to take a year to work, take more classes because I could do a Shakespeare monologue, but I can't sell you cereal or do my makeup. So I'm like, well, if I go there, I'm going to have to. So I took some modeling courses in Nashville and I started focusing on image and I just built up as much money as I could. And then when the opportunity came after the earthquake in 2011,
Oh,
I
that's
came up
right.
first as a volunteer and then but was able to find work and stay after the volunteer
Oh wow.
stint ended. So that's how I got here. It's a long story, but and I've never regretted it once, and I've never been disillusioned. I know all of Japan's warts and flaws and things, but my goodness, this is the country I married, and I am not getting a divorce.
That's incredible. Seriously, that is amazing. Everything you just, wow. That's incredible. Wow, because I love the Japanese culture, and so that's so cool that it's your life now. That's what you get
It's my
to.
life now.
Wow. Oh, that I'm just gonna let that all absorb into my brain.
So
That
it was
is
a lot. I just kind of went,
no, it's great because I have a
you
lot
tell I
of
talk for a living.
oh, of course, yeah, and that's something I want to also get into as well. Because the can also let's backtrack just a little bit because going back when you were talking about High School Musicals, the first production
Hmm.
I saw you in was a production of Hello Dolly.
Uh, I
Yes,
wondered if you were going to bring that up. People still
yes.
do when they go
And
back home.
oh, yeah, because it was Warren Central High School, and at the
That was
time,
Dolly.
yes, and I'm a homeschooled kid, so I never really got to experience high school life. So I
That's
thought,
right.
yeah, so for me, if there was any high school musicals going on, like whether it was, the Greenwood High School, Bowling Green High School, and
Mhm.
Warren Central, and so yeah, so there was two productions that you did. Hello Dolly was the first one, and I loved your Barbara Streisand. I thought you really, really channeled her extremely well to the point where it made me want to learn more about you know the the stage version, and then of course
Oh,
the
wow.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
about a year later, we did through community theater, Fountain River Place
Yes.
Community Theater that you referenced, Big River, which was this,
Yes.
for those who don't know about community theater, it doesn't pay, but it gives you all that hand-on experience acting and helping sets. And then I think a year later after that, back to high school, you did a production of Beauty and the Beast, and you played
Hmm.
Belle.
Oh, actually, no, I didn't.
What? What?
That's
I thought.
interesting.
Oh my gosh, what? Are you sure?
It's okay.
Oh no, what happened?
No, it's okay. My friend Lee played Belle, and
That was
I
it.
was one of the silly girls. That's funny that you thought
That
that.
was that
No,
was
I
it.
think,
That
oh,
was it.
it's okay.
I had the Mandela effect. I was like, I sure
Well, the Mandela effect might have something to do with the fact that I've cosplayed Belle at Tokyo Disney. So that probably
maybe
got in your brain.
that's probably it. But that's right. You were the silly girl. That's right.
Yeah, I
You weren't
was.
Belle, but you were in Beauty and the Beast for that high
I was
school
in Beauty and the
production.
Beast, yes. And I love that
Wow.
story. I love it dearly, of course. I mean, yeah, you can see my social media. I've done Belle at Tokyo Disney just for cosplay. I've not been the Belle at Tokyo Disney, although I recently met a friend of Belle
Oh, that is so
from Tokyo Disney,
cool.
and
That
that
that's
was very fun.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, that's incredible. But yeah, but you definitely have really, really good practice, I guess, not practice because I guess it's great because when you're doing high school productions, then you do the Governor School of the Arts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what were the things that you learned the most from the Governor School of the Arts before you went to
Mm.
Ball State University in Indiana? What was the course that like you're talking about skill set? What was the things that
Yeah.
really helped you develop the skill sets? Because you obviously have the talent. It's just like having those skill sets to help you along your journey. So can you talk about Discover School of the Arts for a bit?
Sure. Governor School for the Arts is an artistic program in Kentucky that where high schoolers can audition, and then they go to ours was hosted by Transylvania University, and you do a 3 week intensive on your discipline and so there's musical theater. I think there's just vocal music, there's instrumentation, there's a whole bunch of different and dance, and I got into the acting option. And I think what I was really disappointed that I didn't get into the musical theater option, but I was also a sophomore and I wasn't a very strong dancer, so
No.
I get it. But actually, the acting option, what it taught me, I think, was that there's imitation, which a lot of young people have when they
Mhm.
go into like community theater or high school. And so they're kind of imitating what they've seen people do. And that's a normal way for people to start. I think that what Governor School for the Arts really taught me was to start trusting my organic, natural instincts. In fact, I'll never forget organic as an artistic term because we were sitting around in the big circle during like the class time, and the professor literally asked us, he goes, "Does anybody know what organic means?" And I raised my hand like the little honors student I was, and I said, "Carbon based," which, yes, scientifically, that is the correct answer. But everybody laughed at me, and I didn't know why they were laughing.
Aw.
It was a little precious, but from that point, I learned about how it's more than just imitation or big high character things. What happens when you just sit as a human being on stage or not just or behind the mic or whatever or in front of a camera, but how you manage to be organically, naturally just human and tell a story rather than put on a show, which is they're both important. But I think that's where Governor School for the Arts really shifted something for me. And also helped me harness the inside. There was People tend to go outside in when they're young, like they start from the outside in terms of acting. but it helped me start to learn to go from the inside out
Yeah.
around that. All of the Stanislavski, Meisner. We did a whole bunch of different, and physicality, and talking about and really get free and to explore the physicality of things and not be so limited and pick up your ticks. And of course, all of this was an intensive, but then you go to university and then they just double down and they take you apart and they put you back together as a human being. And so you're like, yes, you have to be an organic human being. But now let's talk about the way you pronounce the t sound. And you're like,
Yeah.
aha, oh
Diction,
dear.
diction,
And
diction,
so
diction.
it's insane. Like the actual training that goes into acting is a little bit like holding a contradiction in your head because you want things to feel real and believable and organic. But on the other side, you're thinking about breath, you're thinking about
Mhm.
physicality, you're thinking about, of course, obviously text, but you should just know your lines. You should never
Yes.
perform unless you just know your lines. But I say this, except when in voice acting, sometimes you get the script right then because
Yes.
maybe it's NDA. You get the script, you're seeing the video for the first time, and you have to just tap in, like
Mhm.
improvisationally go, I'm just gonna go like with that first instinct. So the combination of the need to have a lot of technical skill combined with the capacity to settle into the organic and human truth and
Yes.
present it in a way that's believable, I think that's where the real tension with acting is in any form that you do it in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm so glad grateful you mentioned those methods too, like the Meissner method. For those who don't know the Meissner method as well, can you go into just a little bit of description? I know what it is, but for listeners who may not know what the Meissner method
I
is.
am, well, I am not I'm by no means a Meisner expert. But um, it's one of the ways that it's more of a training process that tries to get you out of your head so you're not anticipating and planning so that you are reacting in the moment.
Yes.
So one of those so that because it's very tricky if you're doing a stage play and you know all the scenes, like
Hmm.
you can start to anticipate going into the room and then you've lost the truth of it. So the Meisner method is a way to kind of get you out of that so that you're just very, very present in this and right there with the person and that you're listening and reacting. Yes, you're listening and reacting not because you have to and
Hmm.
not because it's planned for you to, but because that is the actual impulse that arises from that moment. It's very challenging actually. So some exercises involve saying the same line over and over and over again in different ways to each other to get until you can react. And I'm not explaining this very well because again, I am not actually that well versed in Meisner. I've just taken some classes and courses. What it ended up being really useful to me actually was some of actually the more technical things. So the Meisner you think of as the method where you want it to be very, very raw and real, like inside of you. But then there's also the outside in approach, which is very technical, which is, I don't know, I'm thinking about cheeseburgers. But as long as I'm thinking about cheeseburgers and my body and mind and voice are doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, and as long as the audience gets it, that's fine. Like, I'm not advising you think about cheeseburgers when you're doing, but there's also a way to come in if you're going to be doing a very, very intense scene to emotionally access that without actually, maybe there's something in your own emotions you want to protect or take
Yeah.
care of.
Hmm.
To emotionally access that, you find a breath.
Hmm.
Like you can literally just go, I don't want to have to think about some dead person today or something to cry.
Yeah.
But you train your body so that you can learn to cry by a certain kind of a breath or certain kind of a thing, and it gives you a technical way in, which is incredibly helpful for repeated stage performances when you need to deliver consistency every night. And
Yeah.
that was something that was extremely helpful for me to learn about in college. We studied Lecoq, we studied some Suzuki, we studied a lot of those more technical theater approaches as well, and very physical ones. They're very physically demanding when you're training in those, but it's to get your body into that state of being the instrument that you can play. You want to
Right.
play yourself like an instrument. Um, is I guess a way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
You don't want to get carried away. You want to have agency and control over what's happening. But then you would also say, but not too much control, because if you have too much control, then you're not being organic. And then you can go into the spiral of what actors deal with
Yeah.
and trying
It,
to
yeah.
actually perform the work.
Right, because it's like a tightrope. It's like, all right, don't want to go too off, but then you want to go to the other side because it's like, all right, just stay in the center, just stay in that center.
Yeah.
And
Because there's
also,
also, who cares if you're experiencing a lot of emotion if the audience doesn't get it? Like you
right,
can be
because
up here thinking that was the best performance of my life, and it's like because you felt so much, and it's like, yeah, but baby, they didn't feel a thing. So what
right.
did you do? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's part of the communication process too, knowing like, did I
Mm-hmm.
communicate this properly? And also, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's good for the Meisner method too, because sometimes, whether you're acting on film or even on stage, sometimes things happen where you have to improvise without
Oh yeah.
staying out of character. I think you might love this. Like, that famous scene in The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, where Gandalf sees Bilbo after so many years. And do you know the scene I'm talking about where
I'm wondering. 'Cause I was
just
actually
leaving.
expecting you to talk about the Aragorn yell when he kicked the helm, but
Well, that
but then you
too,
brought up
that
Gandalf,
too.
and
Yes, that too. That too. That's actually another good example. Yeah, because there's a scene where Gandalf,
oh, when he
he's
hits his
like,
head,
yeah, hits his head, and Ian McKellen is still in character, and
just go
then
with it.
and yeah, he didn't break take. It wasn't like cut, please. It was more like he's just standing
Exactly. You
there.
just roll.
And then the example that you just shared with you know, oh God bless, Viggo Mortensen breaking his toe when he kicked that helmet, the two towers, and he lets out this yell. And it was appropriate because it was like, oh, that's fantastic. No, no, that's real yell. I broke my toes kicking that helmet after we thought that Mary and Pippin were dead. So yeah, so that kind of, but also like you said, it's kind of like the technical aspect. But yeah, so has that ever happened to you on stage where it's like
Or something crazy happened. You're just like, I
yeah,
just
and
gotta
you
keep
and it's
going.
kind of like, okay, I gotta stay in character. Or say if an actor forgot their line, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
and you're trying
Oh
to
yeah, of course. Oh, of course that's happened all the time. Well, one of the jobs one of the jobs that I did was um one of the stage jobs I did was actually I was on tour for years with a children's educational theater company in Tokyo. So you're basically doing these huge stage shows for I think our biggest crowd was like 2,000 people, kids and
wow.
families.
Oh my God.
And you're a cat singing the ABCs, and there's like a little story, and you're holding this giant cheese prop, and it's like, what am I doing? This is great. And the kids are wonderful. It was a really fun gig. Um, but you're doing that show almost every weekend, or a show like that with the company almost every weekend for a year. Anything and everything is going to happen. So even if it's like, even in that environment where, yes, it's a kids' show, it's not supposed to be full realistic. That being said, you don't want to break that moment for the kids at all. So something falls and they go, oh my goodness. Oh. You just
Hmm.
have to react in the moment exactly with that on authenticity. I don't have a specific example because I'm like, I don't know how many shows with the company, so I can't even remember all of the different things. I think the one thing that we couldn't cover was when my mic went out.
Oh man. Oh gosh.
When you're in a giant hall of 1,000 people, there's nothing you can do. Like that's just go off stage. Like,
Yeah, and that was like,
hi guys, I'll be back, and then you come back on with a new mic. I mean, what can you do? There's nothing. But
right.
but I think about what I remember when I was okay. So I was the Baroness in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang
Oh,
in
okay.
yes in a production, which was very fun. And my Bombi was he was wonderful, and we enjoyed ourselves way too much in this production. We were basically given carte blanche to just go to town.
Oh
And the
wow.
director also told me, she was like, nobody's going to believe, because the Baroness is supposed to not be a great singer in the
Hmm.
original production. And she's like, nobody's going to believe that you're hitting bum notes. So let's nix that. You just do literally whatever you want. And so I'm like singing runs during Chuchi Face and all the insanity of whatever stupidity I could get into it. Like, how stupid can I make this high note? How absolutely over the top can we make this diva? And so Chuchi Face became a whole, like the choreography and the drama, and like it was a great number, but there was one part where he he came in and pulled me to him, and I was supposed to wrap my little leg around him, and we have a little moment, and then I was supposed to spin out, and he was wearing a cummerbund, which is that little
Mhm.
piece of that little wrap around belly basically in this of the suit, and my dress dance heel got caught in his cummerbund. And
Oh
so when I
no.
was meant to spin out, instead, I was just there with Bombi, just kind of hopping, like, okay, Bombi, this is what we're doing now, and we just moved. And I don't know I don't know if anybody, you don't know in those moments. Does anybody know that this is weird? You just carry through. I think my husband knew, because he was like, it was the only part that didn't seem inhumanly perfect. He was like
Yeah.
everything else seemed so almost like humans aren't supposed to be able to do all those things you two are doing on stage. And then there was this one part where we're just kind of sitting there hopping, and I was like, well, that was what we did that day.
Oh my gosh.
Bombi and Baroness decided to stand in place and hop. She got her foot
Oh
undone.
my gosh.
So
That is
anyway,
that's that is great. And I'm sure afterwards, like, maybe the director was like, hey, good job. There was that
no more
malfunction, but
cummerbund.
yeah, number
Just nix the
cumberbund.
cummerbund.
Man, but that's
Didn't
so
happen again.
cool. That is amazing though. And that's good that you were
Mhm.
able, within both of you were able
Mhm.
to still like, okay, we can't stop the show because of this technical difficulty. We got to keep going. We got to keep going.
And that's the trust too. There's an immense amount to be said for when you can truly trust your scene partner and when you know they have good instincts and that they got your back.
Mhm.
Because I have been in some, I mean, we've all been in productions that had issues,
Yes.
and there are some productions that maybe there wasn't enough time and so they're under rehearsed and so people are insecure, or maybe there was some odd casting and some people are not as comfortable with what they're doing. And in those moments, thinking about, well, what can I do as a cast member
Hmm.
to have the back of other people?
Yeah.
And how do I know how to on stage, if something goes wrong, how to signal to someone and take
Yeah.
care of each other on stage, which is something that when I directed shows, and I've only directed 2 shows full scale. I've done some children's theater stuff and helped out with those things, but definitely when I directed shows, they were very much ensemble focused, in how we approached them. And it was a lot about that. It was a lot about, you are this team of people here to tell the story. If you see something going on with a castmate, keep your eyes out, be aware of what's happening holistically on stage, because you're going to have to, because if you're the other person on stage, when something goes down over here, you need to be there to catch that person.
Yes.
Well, I mean, sometimes literally, but hopefully not. But I was
Yeah.
just thinking about something that happened in our production of Big River, actually. There were a couple things because it's chaotic, it's like
Oh
this
yeah.
huge. So you start the show with a quote from Mark Twain.
Hmm.
So what we did was we had his quote
Hmm.
printed off on this big sheet that the cast all brings out together and all recites the quote to the audience together as they can read it. Well, the
Oh.
opening night, the sheet was upside down.
Oh no.
Oh no, it was
Oh.
great because the thing is, the cast was so, by this time, in the rehearsal process, I had really encouraged them to be like, just roll with it. If you make a mistake, it's fine. You're a bunch of hillbillies. You're a bunch of country people who've gotten together to help Huck tell a story. So if something falls down, just pick it up. It's okay. Let
Yeah.
the audience know that you're okay and they're okay, and we're just going to keep going. So, and and you have to in that show because the subject matter is quite heavy, like
Yeah.
realistically. So you have to create so much safety within the cast, with each other, and then with the audience if you're going to go to some of the dark places.
Right. Yeah.
But so that actually set off the evening. Most of the audience thought it was intentional, especially when Tom Sawyer looks down. He's the only one. Tom Sawyer looks down and goes, and he just shrugged at the audience. And that's what I
Oh.
mean. But he has great instincts. He's a great improviser. His name was John Sabai.
Uh,
He's still a big comedian in Tokyo, and he has fantastic improvisational instincts. So his instinct was look down and fully in character, as a character who totally can, because it's Tom Sawyer, signal to the audience, yeah, this isn't on purpose. Like, this
yeah.
is what we're going to give you. And it really set up the tone for the world that we were inviting the audience to visit with us in for that 2.5 hours or however long that show is, because it's a beast.
It is. Oh my gosh. But that's hilarious. I mean, having done the sh both of us have done the show with you directing, and it's like, oh,
We
it's
did it
upside
together.
down. Yeah, it's like,
Not when I
okay.
directed. I was a high schooler when we did it.
Oh
So,
yeah. But we're talking about the one you directed in Japan, was
mhm.
it? Yeah, I
Yes,
mean,
and I
just
directed in Tokyo.
yeah, but just to have it upside down and then just having the actor who plays Tom Sawyer thankfully knew what to do,
Hmm.
so it
Hmm.
wasn't like, oh, we gotta hide this. It's kind of like kind of like,
Exactly.
but
The
that's
audience
incredible.
is not stupid. They will
No,
see.
they will
They
see.
will
So
see. So acknowledge the best thing. Just never fight your audience. Let the audience's experience be true, and then respond within that is
yeah, and
very
that's
important.
And that's the organic nature that you were
Hmm.
talking about earlier too, of like, don't try to like, oh no, no. Because things happen, like whether it's a sound cue doesn't go on
Oh yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
famously or that one if you have a chance to go on YouTube, Book of Mormon when Josh Gad was in that Broadway performance, there was a moment where his glasses suddenly go off and suddenly in characters, I'm blind.
I
And
saw this. I saw this. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
yeah, and so it's not like oh wait my glass it's because that's the nature of theater. You can't stop, you can't break
Nope.
character. So that's awesome with just going with the flow of that upside down like
Hmm.
quotation by Mark Twain. And then also another production I forgot to mention, going back to earlier work during high
Hmm.
school, college, you did a production at the Public Theater of Kentucky of Nonsense.
Yes.
That was, and
Yes.
I saw that show and it was cool because, well, for me, I was raised Catholic, so I was like, okay, let's have a good little, nun story going on here. And what I liked about it the most was that it was a combination of improvisation, but then also you did stick to the script where you would talk to
Yes.
the audience members. And I remember at a certain point, I think it was like, the nun during a song, the nuns come up through the aisles, you were the nun. And of
Hmm.
course, I don't know why, but me as an audience member, I just kind of stood up and I started dancing and you were holding
Oh,
my,
I think I remember that. Yes, I remember that. Which
talk
is
about,
it's fine. There was definitely room for that. That was a small theater too, so you can get really intimate since it's sort
yeah.
of like the concept of the show Nonsense is that these nuns are putting on the show. So the
Hmm.
show is part of the show. Like you're an audience member. You're supposed to be. So it's
Yeah.
kind of allows the audience to kind of feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah, and I love just the nature of that hybrid of improvisation, but then, it's still
Hmm.
scripted. But I love that the sense of audience interaction where it made the audience not just, oh, we're watching the show, but we're a part of the show. And
Hmm.
and so of
Exactly.
course, during that number when it was kind of like a gospel type number, it's like a
Yep,
clapping.
right at the
So,
end. It was. I think it was a gospel based, yeah, the
yeah,
music
so
style of it. Yep.
yeah, because you feel the spirit, and I guess for some reason I felt the spirit where, as everyone's singing and you're kind of coming up to talking to the members, I get up and start dancing. I think just kind of like holding my hand or something. It's like I can only imagine what was going through through your mind, thinking like, okay. But that was just the beauty of that show, and you and the entire cast were magnificent in that
Oh,
production.
thank you. That was another really special production for me because it was the first time I wasn't doing a high school show and I wasn't just doing community theater because public theater,
Yes.
while small, is still professionally a professional theater. And I was
Yeah.
working with adult. I was the only child. I was the only high schooler working with experienced professional actresses and so there was also a sort of tutoring going on, a mentoring that happened a couple times in that show, where I kind of got a sense of the difference, in working in that environment versus an academic environment, because
Yeah.
academic theater is also very different
Hmm.
than non-academic theater, whether that be community theater or professional theater.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I'm not just acting with friends anymore. These are other
Oh
people,
yeah,
potential
paying
strangers.
customers.
Yes,
Yeah,
paying
like they're
customers.
paying customers. Yes, and I'm here to deliver the goods that they ordered. This isn't a school project.
Yeah, and
Yep.
was that the moment where you felt like this is my professional debut in a way? Because
In
or
a way, because it literally was. Like it was literally the first show that I got paid to do.
that's
And so
incredible.
that was literally my professional debut. It was a small debut, but it it set me up to continue thinking, okay, I will keep doing this. And now, ironically about Tokyo is that while I've done paid theater in Tokyo, as a non-Japanese person, they
Mhm.
just don't cast you in a lot of the shows because
Yeah.
you look different. So almost all the paid theater I've done in Tokyo has been children's theater because the educational market will allow you there. Although I have done a one-woman show.
Okay.
They I was cast in a one. I didn't write it. There was a gentleman who wrote the story of Brenda Berkman, who was the one of the first female firefighters at the New York Fire Department way back in the day, and
Wow.
she was one of the responders during 9/11.
Oh man.
So it's a heavy show, and it's not too involved. It's short, but a short sort of dramatic reading of her story with instrumentation. And I've done that show Well, I did that show with them, I don't know, a couple years, mostly just like in different individual performances rather than like a long continuous run.
Yeah.
Um, and that was interesting to read and to research. I do not physically type for Brenda Berkman, but a lot of, which is fine. But it was more about finding the voice, and I was actually cast because of my voice, which
Really?
is, oh yeah, well that's he had heard me on the radio, which that's the thing. Most of my work in Tokyo ended up being in voice. Like we've talked about theater. I have been trained in theater my whole life, but
Hmm.
most of my work in Japan is actually voice based.
Yes.
And I didn't realize just how much my theater training would set me up for that because it really did.
Hmm.
And so the playwright who wrote this show, this piece, was looking for an actress, and he's a Japanese firefighter who writes in English and Japanese. And so there's an English version, Japanese version of the things he does. And he had heard me on the radio, and he's like, "Well, that's the voice I want." And so he called up
Wow.
my agency and was like, "That's because they're like, yeah, no, she does stage. You do want her actually." Is was how that kind of worked out.
Wow.
So
That's incredible. Wow. That's amazing. Wow. And I can imagine the that being an emotional top, subject matter performing too, and then the audience. I'm sure there probably wasn't a dry eye in the audience during.
Japanese people, what I should say is the audience is most Japanese. So I won't say they didn't cry. There were people who cried. I will say there was when the performers, sorry, when the audience, I always know when the audience is either from New York or from America, there's a different reaction
Mhm.
to the production. The Japanese are maybe more subdued, but the emotion is expressed slightly differently. I remember we
Yeah.
had a question and answer session after one of the performances, and a Japanese man stood up. His face was quite calm, but his whole body was almost shaking
Oh,
as he just wanted to express how impactful the show had been for him. And
wow.
it was just like, and because his face was quite,
Yeah.
so that's the other thing that I realizing about storytelling here is the way people express emotion is just as strong, but
Mhm.
it might look a little different
Yeah.
than it would in a Western setting, and
Right.
making
Because
that
this,
transition as well.
and I was gonna say, wasn't there like when Star Wars, the first Star Wars film by George Lucas, when that was played in Japan, like I remember seeing the famous Ken Burns documentary on that, where you know, it's the first Star Wars film, but the best I please correct me if I'm wrong, but the best type of reception is silence or something like that. Is that true? I watched the
Actually,
documentary where they were so impressed where the best honor they can give the film was not applause, it
oh,
was more like respectful silence. Is that true? Or in that
I
same
actually
case?
don't. I feel bad for saying that. I actually don't know. In terms of film, obviously, if you're going to a stage musical with Japanese people, they will clap. I mean,
Yeah,
like, but for a film, actually, what Japanese people do, still, every time I've gone to the cinema here, they sit through all the credits
I love that.
respectfully. They watch. Japanese people do not get up during the credits,
I
and
love
that's
that.
how you show respect. And yes, it's very, very quiet. Japanese people do not speak in the theaters. There's not none of the big hooping and hollering, which can be, well, like when you're watching like Lord of the Rings. Not that that's in theaters here. Unfortunately, I want it, but
Oh,
so you don't get as much of the but you get
yeah.
but you do get like the specific ways that they say this was beautiful. We love this. But in theater, again, there's less of an audible response. Um, for instance, I did so I've sung songs for anime and video games. And
Yes.
so I did two concerts for the Attack on Titan song that I did.
Mhm.
And then I've done one concert for the Genjitsu, the song I
Yes.
did for Fate Grand Order.
Mhm.
And so the concert for Genjitsu, well, there was one that was a live viewing, so that doesn't count. The one that was during 2020, so we couldn't have an audience, but so we
Aw.
just filmed it. But the one that we did live was in Shanghai.
Mhm.
There was an event, and so that was my first arena of around like over
Wow.
10,000 people in that place, and it was so different because Chinese are so much more openly expressive in that way as audience members. And
Yes.
I had been used to the very respectful, silent, still Japanese audiences. And so when we get on stage, they're like, "Oh!" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is it." Like it was like going back to an anime convention. Like it was like,
Oh,
"Oh, I remember this." I remember what it was like when people just like get all excited in the audience, and so that was very fun. When I sang Memory Lane, which is the
Yes.
song for the Attack on Titan soundtrack, when I sang that one in K Arena, which was 20,000 people, and that was when I was very pregnant,
Oh my
7 months
goodness.
pregnant. Yes. And so that was one of the, I'm so glad I was pregnant because I was way too focused on the fact that I was pregnant to be, I'm like, I don't have time to be nervous. There's a
Yeah.
baby inside me. So that actually helped. But that moment, it was actually euphorically beautiful because I'm so, I was, how do I say it? There's too many people. Instead, it's just a sea. But there is something to be said for live that can never, ever be replaced by something on screen or digitally
Mhm.
because you're in a sea of people and they're all on with you. And even with that many people, at least in my experience, for me, I could feel not all 20,000 or however many people ended up being in the arena, but I could feel that sense and that reaction. And it was like, I'm okay, I'm just going to ride this wave. We're all going to ride this wave together. And that was, I couldn't actually see very, because I'm like, they're tiny and I'm tiny to them. Um, but my husband was in the audience with one of my best friends who was breaking down really, really hard. But
Aw.
he's like, everybody was just sobbing.
Aw.
It was a very big emotional cathartic moment for everyone because this was a major event, this concert, the 10th anniversary concert. The voice actors were there and performing scenes and specific songs from the soundtrack. So getting to do that and be a part of this massive event, part of a very small part of a story that meant so much,
Yeah.
and realizing this is almost a a communal community experience
Yeah.
around storytelling, even though I wasn't doing, it's not the same as doing a full play. Like
Right.
it's, you go on, you go off stage, but you're actually still participating in people celebrating, experiencing, and enjoying a story. And that's ultimately what the work is for me. And that was possibly one of the most intense and wonderful, lovely, lovely, lovely experiences that I've had. Because at the end of the day, going back to the whole who cares if you feel something if the audience doesn't, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, what matters is the people who are watching, the people who
Yeah.
are listening, the people who you create the art and the work for. And does it impact them? And that's whatever medium you're working in, that's really the objective.
Yeah,
So
that's
I went on a
beautiful.
little
Oh, that
tangent, but
no, that's beautiful, Hannah. That is beautiful. My gosh, I'm kind of teary. I'm just kind of sharing myself hearing that. That is wow. I hope your husband recorded that performance or something or
he's
something.
not allowed. Well, if he did, then he wouldn't be allowed to post it. No, actually, that performance, because it was a big major concert event, is entirely available on DVD with the
Okay.
Blu-ray special edition of the final, just the final season. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's of
think
the
so.
movie. If you get the Blu-ray final, the Attack on Titan final attack, I think DVD, you can watch the entirety of that concert performance, I think
Oh,
including the voice actors and stuff. I'm a terrible, terrible person. I received my copy and it is still in its plastic wrap because I cannot
oh,
stand watching my own performances.
oh, really?
I
Okay.
hate it.
Yeah, it's
But
kind of
I like that it exists. I like that I have my copy. I like that my parents can see it. But
yeah.
I personally would be perfectly happy to never watch it ever again.
Oh, well, I'm gonna watch
I
it
had to
now.
review the footage. They sent it to me. They're like, "Hey, here's the footage that we're going to use." It's just like, what am I going to do? Am I going to say, "No, no, you can't use this." Of course, it's perfunctory. They send it to me just to say, "This is what we're putting on the DVD. Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Of course, it's okay. Do what you want. It's your product." Um, and so I have seen the footage enough to go, I accept this.
Yeah.
I was not awful.
That,
That's all.
that's amazing. Now I want to get the Blu-ray. My gosh. Oh my
It's
gosh. And now also I want to definitely now dip into the voice acting and singing aspect. So thank you so much for sharing about Attack on Titan because that was one of the questions I had about singing Memory Lane. But now let's go into the world of voice acting. How
mm.
did you get into that profession of voice acting and then also agents because you talked about agents. So
Mhm.
So how did you both procure an agent, a talent agent, and how did you get into the world of voice acting? Because you've done so much, and I guess I was able to go through your IMDb, and you did some big franchises. I mean, both in anime TV shows and also video games. Like just to list a couple that I have looking in front of me, Metal Gear,
Yes, that
Ultraman,
came out. Mm-hmm.
Bomberman, INNAZUMA 11, and Chibi
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just those five. And then, of course, you did the song for Attack on Titan. Then also, I did get the, hope I pronounce it right, Genjitsu, Fate, Grand Order. And then you did a Symphonic Suite Live solo leaving. Did I get all those correct?
Solo leveling.
Solo leveling. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
that's
not solo
whew,
leveling.
I got to work
Leveling.
with Sawano. No, it's okay. He's a legend. I that
Oh my
sorry. I
goodness.
that when I got that call, when I got that call that Sawano wanted to know if I would sing a song for solo leveling, I was like, ah.
Yeah.
Sorry. He's such a legend. I'm
That's
having a moment thinking
No,
about
no,
it.
that's great. I mean, yeah, now because now thankfully you can go on like, for people who want to be able to listen to those songs, is it like can you go to Amazon Music, YouTube, or
I think that see, this is an interesting conversation around Japanese media, and for instance, it kind of came up with Genjitsu. When Genjitsu came out, the song, and it came out during a video game event that was global, and the global audience heard the song, they adored it.
Mhm.
I got flooded with people who were just very excited and they wanted to know where to buy it, but it hadn't been released anywhere but Japan for sale. And
Mm.
so pretty soon you couldn't hear the song anywhere but in Japan, and it didn't get released till like a year later. And I will say whenever people ask me questions of, well, where can we watch this? Where can we hear this? Where can we? Usually my answer is, I hope it's on Apple now. Like
Okay.
I hope it's been put out there. I'm pretty sure the Solo Leveling soundtrack for season one should be available now. The
Okay.
definitely Attack on Titan. They actually put out for Memory Lane. They put out a couple like a lovely lyric video. Um, that you can watch just on YouTube. So some things are made available that way. Um, but I'm trying to think. Genjitsu is also currently now available on Amazon, probably Spotify, and you'd
Okay.
probably have to look up the composer name
Mhm.
Yamamoto, Kota Yamamoto-san, to to find those. But it's a very tricky thing because, as you said, yeah, these are big franchise names, but notice I'm not so easy to Google. It's
Aw.
it's what it is. It's part of the work, and I'll get to what your question is about voice acting. How did I get in? But part of the work of doing stuff in Japan is, on the positive side, I'm right here where the stuff is made, which means that if they're willing to go local, I'm right here and I can get in right on the ground floor of getting to be a part of these projects. The hard part though is Japan is notoriously bad at interfacing with the rest of the world with their products.
Oh, okay. I did not
They
know that.
they're very focused on the domestic market. So even if they have a massively popular global franchise, they don't always know how to capitalize on that.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
they're very, very in general, Japanese companies are very strict and
Protective, I guess is the right word, protective of what they.
protective of everything that goes out, all media about it. Like even we who are involved in these projects are not allowed to do nearly the level of publicizing and talking about it online as you can in the States and in other countries. And this is a blessing and a curse for me. I would say
Mhm.
most people who work here who are doing the kind of stuff I do would say it's a curse for them because they're like, I can't talk about this.
Yeah.
For me, it's a blessing and a curse because at the end of the day, I love, love, love the work and I want to keep doing the work. And I also want to be quiet and left alone.
Yeah,
There's
which
a
is
part of me
awesome.
going, well, there's a part of me going, if I don't have if I
Yeah.
don't have to speak out that way, like too much and draw too much attention to myself, I'm actually okay with it. I'll just hide on my little island here in Japan and do little things in a booth. Um,
Yeah.
which is actually maybe one reason to transition to your questions about how did I get into voice acting. Um, when I first got here, the very first thing I did was put my feelers out for things like what acting work and film. And I was thinking film and stage and stuff. I was thinking, well,
Yeah.
I could be that random American person who's selling you soap or something on TV. I don't know. I didn't know what was there. And I immediately met somebody whose daughter was involved in TIP Youth, which is Tokyo International Players Youth Program. And Tokyo International Players is the local not how do I describe it? You could call it a community theater because it's not paid. But it's also like the only English language continuous theater company that puts out shows at that scale. So a lot of people involved are professionals.
Cool.
So it's not an amateur theater company exactly. It's a community. Well, yeah, okay. It's the local foreign English language theater company that puts out shows. And so that was my first contact, was getting in through the youth program, and I immediately volunteered to help them sew some costumes for their production of Phantom Tollbooth.
Aw.
And I started talking to all the people who were involved in the theater company, and I auditioned very quickly. But it was people, what I discovered, because this is a hub. We were talking about how important local and community arts are. Nobody makes any money doing TIP, but so many people are developing skills, networking, expressing their art. You can, putting on original productions, like, and also that's how you meet and network with people. And so that's how I been involved in that, and involved with the improv
Mhm.
scene, the English language improv scene in Tokyo. As I was interacting and meeting with all those people, I very quickly learned from them that a lot of the best work in Tokyo is in voice.
Mhm.
And through some of my wonderful, wonderful senpais, the ladies who've gone before me, who are like, the top, some of the top narrator females in Tokyo at that time. This was, oh my gosh, this was like 2011, 2012.
Aw.
It was a long time ago. Um, they came alongside me and really gave me guidance. Donna Burke, who famously sang the song in Metal Gear and is like
Mhm.
been, doing tours. She was one of my very early mentors here in town. She grabbed me on side, as any good agent will, because she ran an agency at that time uh, with Bill, who, sorry, recently passed, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
they were both they're wonderful. And
Mhm.
she and Bill have been, major contributors to that scene here in Tokyo. And she and Bill really took me on side, and for those early jobs when I was very green.
Mhm.
So definitely Donna Burke helped out. Rachel Waltzer was another person. She's been a Tokyo voice for over 20 years. She helped direct one of the first plays I was in. I was Abigail in the Crucible, and
Really?
for various reasons, my director had to step in and be proctor because we lost our proctor like a
Oh,
month out.
oh
And he's a
no.
great actor, so he could. But he brought in Rachel Waltzer to help direct, and that's when she met me. And we are very, very good friends to this day. And she's as a as a theater artist, as well as a voice actress and narrator, she came alongside and gave me guidance. So really, it was through theater. It was through connection. It was through talking with people where I got steered in the right directions. I was told where to apply, because agencies in Tokyo are interesting. Um, in the States, you just have one usually
Mhm.
for whatever it is that you do. But if you are a non-Japanese in Tokyo, and that's also how it is for Japanese. Like, Japanese performers will have their agency who owns them. For non-Japanese, you have a choice. There are agencies that will sponsor your visa, and you can be exclusive with them, and they have, control of all of that. But I have found that if you really want to have the most say and agency in your career and the most availability for incoming things, being freelance and working with agencies on a contractor basis is what works best in this environment for me. And because my visa didn't have to be sponsored through the agency, that helps, because then I don't have to be exclusive. So in actuality, I basically just started to apply as a freelancer to be connected to these agencies. And also there are some studios who contact you directly for certain kinds of work. And over the 10 years, that list just keeps growing because an agent hears about you and they're like, hey, somebody told me about you. Can I throw you into this job? And so at this point, my agency client list is somewhere between 30 to 40 different
Wow.
people. And that's
Okay.
a lot. It's, but it's also the reason I work basically every day. Like every work day, I'm in the booth just about. And sometimes weekends. But
Oh,
and so that's kind of, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of networking, and you slowly have to build that. And if you go exclusive, it all goes away. You have to
oh
like, well, I
yeah.
can't work with any of these people. For
Right.
me, it's one of the reasons I've been able to have such a diverse career is because while it's a lot of work for me, I will have a manager for a job, but the only person who manages my entire schedule is myself.
Yeah.
I'm the one, I have to field all of the emails, I have to do all the things. I also don't get the same level of push and promotion necessarily. Like if I was a capstone person exclusive to one agency, there might be some of that. But I find that the work speaks for itself,
Hmm.
and Japan is a very relationship based work environment, which I love.
Yeah.
So the idea is forming long relationships. It's all about you come in, you form a relationship, you respect that relationship, and then hopefully you keep building on that and progressing with that over the years. And so whenever I have those months where there aren't any big exciting things, there's still those people who just I know call me in just for that simple thing. Oh, can you read this English textbook? Type
Yeah.
of a thing. And it's like, oh yeah, that's where I cut a lot of my narration teeth reading ESL materials.
Oh, that's
Um,
incredible.
oh yeah, there's tons of that. And so you find what is the work in between the other work. And I also think that because I can sing, because I can be on stage, and because I could act on film, because my first big gig was on film
Yeah.
for the TV show
Oh,
HANAKO to
is it?
ANNE, which was yeah
Which one was it?
called HANAKO to ANNE, which
Yeah.
means Hanako and Anne, and it's about the woman Hanako Muraoka who translated Anne of Green Gables, and it's about her
Really?
life story. And I played the
Wow.
teacher who sort of inspired her to enjoy English, and then later on when they became friends in life, who gave her the book Anne of Green Gables, who recommended this is a book
Wow.
you should translate.
And that's one of my favorite stories too, by the way.
So it is mine. When I got that script, I'm like, this is mine. This part
Yeah.
is mine. I,
And
I,
can you
I, oh.
can you
And that was
and
my
is it
first. That was
and
my
is it
debut.
and is that available to watch anywhere like Apple
This is the other issue. That was 2014,
yeah.
and actually, but even before that, I don't know if it ever streamed anywhere overseas.
Oh my
It
goodness.
has been on Japanese TV over the past 10 years. It has rerun on TV here at least 4 or 5 times. Like
Wow.
I would go into a studio and somebody would be like, "Did you know that your show's back on TV?" I'm like, "It's something once." It just had such a long life because it was a beautiful drama. I was so fortunate to get to be a part of that. I got to sing a song in it, and it's like,
Wow.
mm-hmm.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
it's there's like a whole thing that was my debut in Japan was that TV show. And the sad thing about it is I have the DVDs, my parents have DVDs, but outside of buying the DVD set, which is very expensive, I just don't know. I don't know where to tell people outside of Japan to go to watch it. This is
Man.
what as I was saying, it's quite challenging in this environment, which doesn't, Japan is not thinking toward, especially for something like that, which is so culturally here. They're not
Yeah.
thinking about trying to export it
Right.
for a different market. So
Right.
it is what it is.
Well, that's incredible. Yeah, and it's interesting with because we know Netflix is a big streamer that they have different
Oh yeah.
countries. Like there's a lot of great international films and TV
Hmm.
shows. So I hope one day, which is great. I understand why Japan is very protective of the properties. But hopefully we will see some show
I would
like
love
some
that.
kind of a great. That would be great
I
because
would
I.
really love that. I would because it was from the NHK, which is the national broadcaster, which is
Mhm,
honestly my biggest client. Like I do so much work with them. Not
mhm.
just for TV and film. There's a ton of stuff. A lot of my narration is for NHK.
Okay.
So if you were to go on to uh global media like NHK's overseas TV station, if you have satellite or something. If you go onto NHK and you'll see a whole bunch of documentaries and different programs, and you'll probably see some documentaries about food or this restaurant here or this location here, you will probably hear my voice. It will be very difficult to avoid my voice on any given day, maybe more than once. because of the sheer just number of programs that I have narrated at this point over the years. You pop on NHK, you'll probably hear me. I actually had a friend from the convention circuit message me the other day, and she's like, I didn't realize I go to sleep to she's like, I go to sleep to NHK. They're very lovely programs and they're very soothing. I really enjoy them. She's like, and I didn't realize it's your voice. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I do those. I really like that one that you're talking about.
Oh, that's
But those,
awesome.
but NHK is once again very protective of their property.
Yeah.
So you can actually stream it. If you go to their website, they stream a bunch of it. But in terms of, I don't know how they license, if they license that stuff anywhere else.
Yeah. Now, there's one show they're able to watch on Amazon Prime. That's the Benza.
Ah, the Benza.
Yes.
I wondered
I
if you were going
actually,
to bring that up.
yeah, because I mean, I was because again, you've done a lot of stuff because you've done the Benza,
It's
but
all
then
over the place. I'm all over the place.
yeah, because just kind of going through the Benza. So I did actually, it was interesting because it's all in Japanese, of course, because that's where it's produced. So it's cool. So I was
Hmm.
able to watch some episodes. Gosh, even like a couple of years ago, because when you first that we're talking like when you were, I remember you were publishing the link on Facebook, and it's like, oh, I got to
Hmm.
watch this. So I did. So I guess, wow, because you've been a whole bunch of stuff, the Benza, which thankfully you can watch on Amazon Prime. So
Yes, that
those
one's
are,
available internationally and has a very, very interesting history and fan base. It's produced and written and starred in by my friend Chris McCombs, who's he's been in the industry here a long time. Started off as a model in LA, came to Japan, built a big thing here. And I mean, we've been at Tokyo Comic Con. Like I think, like we had a panel at Tokyo Comic Con. I have my character has a music video. Stephanie, the little pink-haired princess, she
yeah.
she has a music video that was written, made, and created for the show, and that just played on a loop at our booth at
Oh
Comic
no.
Con. I'm like, oh no, people get so tired of hearing my weird voice. But
Oh no. It's a
that was a
big
lot of fun because it was so very different than my image was of other things I do.
Mhm.
Hanako to Anne, my character was very much she was a missionary, she's a teacher, she loved children, she baked cookies, she
Yeah.
sang beautiful songs out
Everything.
the window. It was very Fräulein Maria.
Yes.
And I'm like, yes, all of that. That's great for me. This is my heart. But then Chris comes to me with, I would love for you to play a Sailor Moon fan Lolita girl
Mhm.
who's actually a brilliant scientist, but you wouldn't know that. But she is. And I'm like, yes, I think I know exactly what to do with this. And I also have the friend who has the wardrobe because I am friends with I guess you would call her a fashionista. I don't know, but she's very, very deep into niche fashion like Lolita or cottagecore and all those things. So she costumed me and we just went to town. And that was so much fun. It was quite a challenge because it's a fast-paced Japanese. I
Mhm.
think I got better in season two.
Uh-huh.
I hopefully got better. And that's a very fun project. And it was fun to be able to let people see some of it. And it's very, very, very Japanese culture. It's very,
Yes. Kind of
because
like
it was made by it's made by Tokyo people and Japanese people. So the
okay.
production team and the cast are a combination of, I said Tokyo people. What I meant was non-Japanese. I mean foreign residents. So it's
Yes.
it's a combination of foreign residents and Japanese native people working together on this production, which explores all sorts of weird, like crazy things about what it's like to be in Japan and foreign in Japan and in a very kind of fantasy anime-ish crazy way. That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. So yeah, that's the
Oh,
Benza.
that's incredible. And there's two seasons of the Benza, correct?
There are, and
Okay.
there's Benza English as well, which is the offshoot show, which is
Yeah.
a fake English language educational show. And
Okay.
Stephanie has a corner, and that my corner was Stepping with Stephanie, where I teach English through exercise.
Oh, I love
It's
that. Yeah, because I
ridiculous.
because I think I
It's
did see that
ridiculous.
on your IMDb too. So yeah, so
Yep.
wow.
Yep.
And I was gonna say also, yeah, because it's interesting, because we know, like for example, in the Western version of Power Rangers, for example, but then you have Super Sentai, which
Yep.
it's interesting because when you compare the two, they are
Hmm.
different. But so I
Hmm.
love the
Hmm.
Benza quality because it just has a lot of things of that's kind of not exactly Super Sentai because there is, I mean, not
But very Saturday morning cartoon,
yeah.
not sorry, I'm saying not sketchy, but nostalgic sort of. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was made for that audience, definitely.
Yeah, so I picked on that right away. I was like, oh, I love this. This is fantastic. But yeah, and us coming through your IMDb too, because you've done, again, going back to, I mean, everything from, you also did a Disney Dance video or something like that.
That, yes, uh, that was part of World Family. So going back to the
Mhm.
kids show thing, it's a licensee of the Disney company, and so it's again, the goal is education for the kids. And so we put out some special DVD series of us dancing. It's like a dance with me type of a video where you have the Disney song playing, and then you're there teach. You have a teaching section where you're teaching the kids the dance, and then afterwards you do the dance. And so the idea is for the kids to be able to watch the DVD at home and dance along with you. And I did two of those actually. I think only one's on my IMDb. And those are very sweet, and that was very fun with Disney AVEX to get to do that. And I am not. I have danced for work, but I won't call myself like a dancer. Like it's
Ah,
that I can fake it. Like I move well. I'm one of those actors who moves well. But for teaching kids how to dance to Disney songs, that was just very
that's a
sweet.
dream.
And then you get the videos from the kids that they post online. You see them dancing with you and singing and stuff. And while I was doing the shows, they would come and talk to me about it. And the kids would line up and express, like, oh, I love it when you do this part and that. And they would want to do the moves with you and things. But yeah, but lately most of the work is voice. It was a lot of narration and voice acting and documentary stuff, but recently the game work has been a lot. it's
Right.
it's really popping off.
Yeah, because I mean, aside from, video games, you've also done what was it? Well, in video game world, if we go talk to video games, I mean Metal Gear, but you also did Castlevania. Was it the
Yes.
Grimoire of Souls? Which is,
Grimoire of Souls, yeah.
which Castlevania is huge,
Is
but
another big
all o-
franchise, yes.
yeah, all over the
That was
globe.
really cool. That was
Man.
fun. That was fun.
And oh my
I mean,
gosh.
it's interesting to because the game thing because a lot of as you know a lot of localization is done not in Japan. Most of it's done overseas in the States, and but I do see more and more localization happening here with different groups, and whenever that happens, it's quite exciting because. At the end of the day, I'm an actress and I
Yes.
love narrating documentaries and I love doing those things. I love doing kid shows. But when you get a video game, you get to really go for it. Like one release last year was Machine Girl,
Hmm.
Zenshin Machine Girl, which is just an off the chain, like exactly what you think it's going to be when you hear it's about a cyborg schoolgirl team of schoolgirls there to take down an evil corporation with machine gun arms. I mean, it's what you think it is.
I love
And
it.
I got to sing the theme song with the other main character, Diana Garnett, who is a legend. She is a
Mhm.
legend and amazing as a director and as a voice actress and singer. And that was great. Just to get to do the whole thing. You're just in the booth for two big I think it was 4 hour sessions. So 8 hours total over 2 days. And you just bang, bang, bang going through the script like
Yeah.
in these crazy situations and you just have to let yourself go because there's only so much because the other thing about people don't realize with video games and with voice acting in general is you don't actually get as many takes as you think.
Really? Okay.
Especially studio time is expensive.
Hmm.
And usually there's a clock going. And that's the thing I think people don't understand about a lot of the voice acting is how much of it you have to prep for so that when you get into the booth, you can just go. Because they've got to record this many other actors
Hmm.
and they have this much of a script to do. So you really need to be on it.
Yeah.
So depending on the scene, like you might get more and more takes. But if you can nail it in one, hopefully one, maybe two, try not for three, like for
Yeah.
certain things. But it also depends on the game. Like that one was one where you just go for it and just run with it and play. Then there are other more yeah, like ponderous roles. There's a game that's going to be released this week, which I cannot
Yeah, we can.
announce
Yeah.
yet, but it's going to come out this week, where it's a slower, more thoughtful, more emotional story, and I got to play a really interesting, very complex character and we spent a lot of time like the number
Really?
of hours rather the number of like actual lines I had in that game were less than in something like Machine Girl,
Really?
but we spent a
Okay.
lot more time over the lines because the scenes were very complex and Diana was actually working with me on that project. I'm not going to say anything else. I hope it's okay that I said that. It's going to
Yeah,
be
no, we're good.
released.
We're
It's
good.
going to be released this week,
Yeah.
and I didn't say the name, but so something like that, you're really, but it's still you have to be on,
Hmm.
even though you might be able to spend a little bit more time. You don't want to waste people's time,
Yeah.
and so when you get a piece of direction, you just kind of have to try to turn, it's like that Meisner thing, turn your brain off a little bit. Don't overthink it and try to let your instincts come through is
Yeah.
what. And so all of that improv stuff, all the Meisner stuff, all of that stuff we talked about with organic acting,
Yeah.
you just have to do that in the booth with your voice, reacting to the situation or the scene in as authentic as way as possible. And you just do that for 4 hours. It's fine.
Yeah. And then also I think too, because and also with voice acting, I'm a big lover of voice actors like Mel Blanc. I mean the list goes on and on and on. So I heard something a few years ago, the difference between doing voice acting for a video game versus like, a TV show is that
Hmm.
the script's big because in video games, and please tell me if this is true, where basically because there's different scenarios, your scripts are bigger. That means
Mm.
because I wasn't sure in your experience, has it been like where typically it's like, you read like like a TV script that you're voice acting and it's like, but it's like, okay, we now need a scenario, we need like, because it's a game, there's gonna be, it's like
Oh
more
yeah.
scenario. So has that been, so when you first learned that, was it kind of like, oh, I need to do, this is going to be more work? I mean, what was your experience when you kind of did your first video game of like, okay, this is going to be more different, not different takes, but it's like it's like the yes or no, then you have to do. Is that true, basically?
It really depends on, I would say, the game, because my first games when I was really starting out were quite small. And that's good because I was starting out. So I think I did a fishing game called Hooked On. I
Ah,
was the character I and the character Jamie. You can still find it on YouTube if you really want
oh
to. Please
yeah,
don't.
no, we can
Please
try
don't.
it.
But that was really very straightforward. I got a script. There was no visual yet, and then I just just a second, something popped up on my screen.
Oh,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
okay, it's
Sorry
okay.
about that. Anyway,
No, we're good.
um uh that was just you get a script, you go in, you listen to the director say this is what I want you to do and sound like you get the voice and then you just record. And I think that was just a couple hours and it wasn't too much because there weren't as many lines. But then you do something like Machine Girl or
Hmm.
like Inazuma 11
Yeah, or Metal
and
Gear, or Metal Gear.
or Metal Gear, and that's a completely different thing. So an example for well, for Metal Gear, the good thing was I'm the operator voice, which means I'm not matching any mouth movements. I'm not visually on screen as a character. I am speaking to the players through essentially I'm the lady on the headset. So that is all just okay. It's just all in the voice. You don't have to worry about this or that timing and those kinds of things. But then you do something like Inazuma 11, where it's a combination of cutscenes that are like, the characters moving around and actual animated sequences where you have to match the lip flaps
Oh,
like you would in an anime.
yeah,
Those are the kinds where you're like, okay, I'm just going to sit here. They fortunately sent the footage for most of the scenes. They don't always do this. It depends on the project and how tight they're being with the material, but they'll send you the footage ahead of time and then you just sit there with yourself practicing character timing with the footage so that when you get into the studio you can just go for it. But
yeah,
the issue is still timing. Like it's still you still have to get it done in a reasonable amount of time, and it's a
yeah,
lot of in order to make the studio time mean more, your prep outside the studio has to be really thorough.
yeah,
And so video games I do find require a lot more work when it comes to prep outside the studio. Like I don't know how many times I like sometimes if it's a really big game that I know and if I'm a main in it, then I'm going to have to go through the whole script even if it's not my character a couple times
yeah,
to get through the story and all of that. I got to study it so that because when you're actually recording, you often aren't recording with everybody else's lines.
right.
You're recording with yours, so you still kind of have to know what's going on.
Mhm.
Um, So that is a lot more work and a lot more prep time than the smaller games I started off with, where it's just, you just got a script and you go in.
Yeah.
Um, I think Inazuma was very complex and a lot of work. I have a friend right now, but sometimes the number of hours you put in a studio for a video game is quite a lot. I have a friend who is currently recording a game and she has 20 hours booked of
Whoa.
recording time, and
Y-
that doesn't include her time prepping the script outside of it.
Wow.
And so it's a lot. But we like that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
We want work.
Yeah, we want
but
yeah, give me some work.
but it's but yeah, but when it comes to doing TV shows and anime, um, the script doesn't have, like you said, cutscene or different versions of scenes, but you are usually still dealing with having to match timing.
Yes.
And so when you go in, actually, I did Puni Runes, the
Yeah,
anime, which is
yeah.
all on YouTube. That you can
Yeah,
watch.
yeah, sweet.
And that was very much, I got sent the footage, got sent the scripts, practice at home because we're on a clock and studio time is expensive. So
Mhm.
I went in and we would just record the episode like straight. And then once we did that, we would go back, and if there was anything we needed to retake, we would retake it.
Gotcha.
It's literally like I got one take and then and then we clean. And that's actually how a lot of the studio time is for a lot of these projects, because it's just they're expensive to make, they're expensive to work on. So that's why you're out of studio prep matters so much,
Yes.
so that you can go in and go, yeah, roll the tape. I will literally just record this entire thing for you here. And then we'll go back. And if there's like a crying scene, which there is in Pony Rooms, it's very, if there's some scenes where you definitely want to spend more time on,
Mhm.
and you definitely don't want to have to spend too much time on a scene where you're just reacting to something with like a like
Yeah,
just know it, move on. And so that's part of just being responsible for your part of the job, and then being flexible enough that when the director gives you the feedback that you go, okay, and you try it a different way
right.
without taking up too much time or fuss or anything. It's quite a fast paced, actually. When you're doing it in studio with a team, I find it to be a very fast paced process, in the sense of you're trying to get a lot done, as much done as you can within this time frame. So you got to be 100% locked in and focused. There's
Yes.
no faffing around. There's none of that.
Right.
I do some home recording. In Japan, it's mostly in studio, and the home recording process is a little different. Like, because
Yeah.
that's when if you don't have a director directing you, then you take the takes you do and you fiddle with it and you do what you want to do, and then it's up to you. Like, but I would also suggest, since you're often being paid for the hour, don't faff around and then charge for 3 hours on a job that should take one. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
nobody appreciates that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that also kind of is interesting because during COVID, and all that
Mm,
period too. So was and because I know one thing we mentioned earlier also was that there were situations where, like, say you didn't have a chance to read a script until you got to the studio. And would that sometimes happen even during in COVID, where if it's like, okay, we're going to send you the script and it has to be done by certain time. So in both scenarios, both during the COVID and then just getting a script fresh, like, okay, I gotta bring this
yep.
character to life. Can you talk about those two scenarios? I know they're kind of
Sure.
different, but they're kind
Let's
of
start with COVID. Let's talk about COVID first, because honestly, I think COVID was a little different in Japan than it was for other places.
yes.
Because in terms of stay-at-home mandates, it wasn't mandated.
Okay.
Um, so it wasn't like you couldn't leave
Hmm.
your house, or it wasn't so what that meant was there was sort of this is how Japan kind of does things. Rather than making a hard rule that's like a law, they'll just make a suggestion. And because people in Japan who live here, and the Japanese, it's an honor trust-based society in which everybody just kind of agrees to do the thing. Like,
That's good.
almost in an unspoken way, we all know what we're supposed to be doing. We'll do it. You don't have to literally order us. You can suggest it and we'll basically cooperate. And that's kind of what we saw here. It wasn't a complete shutdown, but it was sort of a wide scale cooperation of, we're just going to quietly lower this. But what was interesting was, for me, I was still out because we had our home studios. I'm like, okay, I can do stuff at home. I did a couple jobs like that, but in the end, most of the clients still wanted the director and the voice artist to be in the booth. And so I was still going out to studios, which was actually, I'm like, well, if any work environment, I'm in a sealed room by myself. I wore a mask in. Everything has been wiped down before I got here. This is like the safest place I can work if I'm going out to work. And so what I found about that was my life did not change as much as some people's lives when it came to that.
Yeah.
Neither did my work. I recorded memory lane during COVID,
Really?
like the actual recording. And I can say that because Yamamoto-san posted the picture of us in the studio during 2020. I'm not outing anything.
Aw.
It's already there. No, I recorded that during COVID, and my biggest fear was, what if I get COVID and
Yeah.
I can't do it? It was like, I'm like, no, no. That terrified me.
Oh my
So
gosh.
but as far as getting a script on the day, um, I have always been since childhood a very good cold reader. And I would say having cold reading skills is a really good thing for a voice actor narrator. You'd be
Yes.
surprised the number of jobs that require you to just show up and be handed the script, whether it's NDA or whether it's they just finished it.
Hmm.
So, I fortunately was already practiced in cold reading, and I like reading aloud anyway, just books recreationally to people.
Yeah.
So, but then coming into working in Japan, one of the best things that trained me in cold reading was, no joke, English language textbooks.
Okay.
I do it. I did a ton of that work. I still do that work, but I did a lot when I was first young and cutting my teeth. And the thing is, they don't send you the textbook ahead of time. You just show up at the studio. You have no idea. You're like, it's an educational recording, okay? No idea what you're going to be reading. They put it in front of you, they explain it to you, and then you go. And that was great. It was great for teaching me how to be on mic. It was great for teaching me things like breath control and a whole bunch of stuff. We always do voices. There's characters in the textbooks and stuff like that too. But it was great for cold reading because it was the first time I'd ever seen it. And I have to make it sound completely natural and fluid and good. And now one of my regular jobs is a news program for NHK, like
Oh,
the
nice.
national broadcaster.
Yeah.
It's there. It's almost last year. It was almost twice a week. It depends on the month. Some months it's twice a week. Some months it's not. And because it's a news program, that it's very fast turnover. So They made the program in Japanese. It's very quickly translated into English. It's very much like they don't send you that script because it's quite like NDA is the wrong word, but it's
Yeah.
very copyright protected material for its NHK. So you show up at the studio, they hand you the script, and then you go. In previous years, I had more time with the script beforehand, but I've been doing it for over 10 years. And so now it really is, I go in, and if the other narrator's still going, I'll look over the script with the time that I have. But a lot of times I show up and they're already ready to go. So they hand me the script, I walk in, I mark which parts are mine, and we just record. And by now have done that so many times, and they usually you have a block of text, and then you have a little number down below that says how many seconds that block of text is. I
Wow.
have done these specific scripts, like this format, this program, for so long that I can look at that number, and not with perfect accuracy, but I can pretty much go, oh, this is how fast I have to go. Like
Wow. I did not know
it's
that.
just I've done it that many times. So that's the other thing that what you can never replace is just the hours doing the job.
Hmm.
It's something that, like, if somebody, for instance, wanted to get good at cold reading, my recommendation is read aloud to
Hmm.
someone.
Yeah.
Find a book you like, read it out loud, try to enjoy that, and try to make it listenable and enjoyable. That's because you get better at the thing by doing the thing.
Right.
So I still have a lot of jobs that are all cold read. Um, and I'm not entirely sure, because the other thing is, I'm not entirely sure that a bunch of hours of practice outside the booth will improve certain jobs.
Mm.
One of a trick, I won't say which job, but there was an instance where I was cast as a character, and I had an image of that character based on what had been done by the Japanese voice
Yeah.
and based on my image of the voice. And then I got into the booth, and they wanted something very different
Oh.
vocally
Oh
than what I
goodness.
had practiced. And so you have to pivot so fast. So what you don't want to do is over practice, and before you know what the director wants, you have to be careful about how much you practice, because you want to be able to pivot with what the director wants. So when I talk about script preparation, what it doesn't mean is coming in and already planning out how you're going to say a line. That's not what that means. It means know the character really well, get your voice flexible, have an idea for the character and a sense of what drives them, understand the script, understand the story, understand your lines, and have had them in your mouth. If you know that there are certain words that are going to be hard, practice those words, like those kinds of things. But don't plan out your performance, because once you're in the booth, you have to work collaboratively with
Yeah.
the team. It's kind of the same for songs, actually.
Yeah.
You have to stay flexible. With Memory Lane, it was like breathing. It was great. It's
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. That's so
one of the
amazing.
most magical days in the studio I've ever had. It was wild
Yeah,
in the
I
middle
think
of
what,
the pandemic. And it wasn't too many people. And we just sat there, and it's like everybody understood. It was
yeah,
beautiful. It was one of those magic moments when you're doing your job where you're just like, we're all, this is so, it all just fit really clearly, and we all, and then there are other songs where there's so much, there's a lot more voices, there's a lot more pressure, there's a lot more things, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to keep, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be singing this exact same line 30 times before we get it, and I'm just going to keep doing it. And you just keep telling yourself, they're paying me, and I'm going to sit here in this chair and sing this as many times as they want me to, and until they kick me out.
and it's a beautiful
And so
song
you just
too.
have to, yeah, so you just have to be ready for, you just have to be ready for both, or for all of the process, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the process is what you get to have, because then after that, it belongs to the fans.
That's right. Yeah, and it's a beautiful song too. I mean, all of your work you've done, I'm just grateful I've been able to see, samples of your work or watch actual shows and, acting wise with each other years ago. And it's great because I'm so grateful that there's that clip of you singing Memory Lane, with an orchestra in the background. And I'm going to be sure to include as many links as you want to in the description of
All
the
right, thank you.
episode. Yeah, so that way people
Yeah, I
could be
was glad
like,
that they did release a little that's an officially released concert footage video. Hopefully it still plays overseas, I guess. I don't always know what plays in Japan and what plays overseas, like when you click on the link, but if
yeah,
anything doesn't work, let me know.
but that's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing that. Seriously. And gosh, I have more questions, but I know that we have to now
I
get
know our time. I told you I talked a lot.
well, now we're going to get to the part of the top five, and usually I have guests do like a top five or top 10 of anything. So what's going to be your top five? What's going to be your top five?
I decided to go with since it's five, and since we've talked about how I've done a lot of different things, each of them represents a kind of work.
Hmm.
So one's so stage production, song singing job, TV job or film job, and general and video game.
Yeah.
Um, can I do my honorable mentions first?
Yes. Honorable mentions. Go fire away. Fire away.
So quick fire honorable mentions. The Benza. I
Yes.
mean, it was like, is it in my top five or is it? But we talked about that, and yeah, it's just really special, and I feel it deserves that honorable mention. Another honorable mention is Big River. When I
Yes.
directed it here in Tokyo with an international cast, we represented all the continents but Antarctica on that stage, telling this very American story. It was um it was a very special experience for me, and so that's an honorable mention. Another honorable mention is the kids shows that I told you about, Disney's World of English, getting to perform and help teach English through performance all so many beautiful Japanese children and meet them face to face was very special. The and the last honorable mention is The Witch and Into the Woods. I got to be the
Yes.
witch and Into the Woods, and I loved it. But
Yeah.
those are not actually my top five.
Yeah. But they're
Um,
good
I
mentions.
they're good mentions. I've written them down, not in the order of which is top, but just in the order of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And I'll try to keep it brief. But the first one, obviously, that has to be in my top five is the TV show I told you about, Hanako to Anne.
Yeah.
And Hanako and Anne, the story where I was the teacher who gave the book Anne of Green Gables, because of just, it was very, very rarely in acting and in your professional life are you handed an audition script that is you, and then you book it and you're like, this is me.
Yeah.
Like, what could I give to Japan? What could I represent of me? What would I want if I do one thing here? What would it be? And just to be handed that right at the start of my career, and for that to be my debut on TV here, and then kind of set the stage for what my path in Japan would look like. There wasn't a better role or show that I could have been a part of. It changed my life in a very real way, and it was deeply a part of my soul to
Oh,
do
I'm gonna
that
try not to cry.
production.
That's oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
The next, I guess, number two is actually just NHK, like the broadcaster. I because what I do with them is so diverse. I've done educational stuff, I've done on-screen stuff, I've done children's TV educational shows, I do documentaries. I'm in a radio show. Again, I've done radio shows with them teaching English that I get to be actively a part of, like, it's very interactive, like what are we teaching and stuff. I love that. And it's being a part of the national broadcaster has really given me a chance through my work to understand Japanese culture
Yeah.
in a very real way. These simple shows that I narrate that just highlight normal people's lives, or highlight like this little grandma who makes this specific kind of pickled plum, or
Mm.
this art museum. These are ways that I have been able to sort of steep myself in the country that I fell in love with. And then I've been able to reach, like, give something back and contribute back through like the radio show, the educational shows and things like that. And even my son, he watches NHK educational
Oh,
programming in the mornings. It's so good. The kid stuff is so good. I love it. I'm so happy that I got to be a part of it and do it because it's really great stuff.
yeah, because he's like, hey, that's
Um,
my mom. They say, yeah, that's mom. Well, this,
so I would say, yeah, NHK is right up there. Just in general, the stuff that I get to do with them, I'm very grateful for it. Um, the next one is Memory Lane. We've talked about it
yes, yes.
enough a bit, but yeah, Memory Lane was the second time in my career where, in a non-theater context, but just in my professional context, where I was handed something that was my soul and just asked to, here,
Oh,
just you just want to give your heart to the world.
yeah.
And he's like,
Oh,
you're gonna pay me for it?
yeah.
Like, this is
Sorry.
unbelievable. It was I cried so hard
I'm,
when I
I'm in tears
first
right now.
heard the
I'm getting
demo of
back
the
it right
song.
here. I'm sorry. I was like,
It's
oh my
because,
gosh.
well, and because it also transformed how I viewed my voice, because my voice is not a pop and rock voice, and it was very challenging to find like where my voice fits in. Um, and so that's why, I don't get some of the other kinds of singing work that some people do with a more, how do I say, a marketable contemporary sort of
Yeah,
sound.
the pop, like the, yeah.
Oh, it's
But
great. No, don't get me wrong. I think it's awesome. It's not my strength. So then for somebody to hear my voice, I'm not going to go into the detail of how I got that job, exactly. Well, it was just, I don't know, it was a YouTube video that a manager who was looking for someone to sing saw a YouTube video that I had posted singing with my brother during COVID.
yes, was that the when the river meets the sea?
Yes.
I
They
love
saw
I
that video, and they contacted me and asked me if I would be consider singing a song for Attack on Titan. I was like,
wow,
yeah,
wow.
no, I will die now. Sorry,
I'm
people
gonna
get to
include that
believe that. I
video
don't know
with you.
what,
I was gonna
but
say I'm also gonna include that video of you and James singing in the description of this episode
go
too,
ahead,
because
do that.
yes.
That was my COVID moment, or like where that was something that my brother and I created, across the sea for each other, and then I received the music and I received the thing, and it was just, yeah. And
Oh,
then, like I
oh,
said, it was one of the most magical days I've ever had in a studio, and I'm grateful, and the fact that I've gotten to perform it live, and the fact that I got to perform it with my son in my belly,
oh my
and
goodness.
have it's there. I think it'll always be a major part of my soul. And at that time, I remember thinking, if there is anything I could give to the world during COVID, it's this song,
Yeah,
whatever the
that's a
song means to people because of what it is. Anyway, so yes, that's the other.
oh yes, yeah.
Then I have two more. The video game one, as I thought about all the video games, because we mentioned there's a bunch of stuff. I'm afraid the video game one is going to be very disappointing.
No, that's okay.
My my top five video game choice is a title that I cannot tell you
That's cool.
because, and it's no and it's not one I'll ever be able to tell you, because I did temp voices, meaning I did the temporary voice for a game that was in production, very big franchise, and I got to do some very good, famous characters,
Oh my
and no
goodness.
one will ever know.
Oh.
But my gosh, it was some of the best hours I've spent in a studio. I was working with an amazing director whom I love, and it was just like, this is why I do this. All I want to be doing right now is being these people in this scenario doing this. And again, it'll never be posted, it'll never be published. These were temp voices
Yeah.
because eventually they'll get the actual cast because that was for game development. But I thought about it, I'm like, do you really want to put that in your top five? And it's like, yes, because I really love the work.
Hmm.
And it's one of my favorite experiences. And I think that's why I like being in Japan, because even if I can never tell you that I did it, that moment of doing it and
Yeah.
with my director going, let's try this, and just getting to experience the story that way, that's why I love acting. Like that's why what I love doing. So that's my favorite video game.
Oh, that's so cool.
Video game top
So
five.
whenever it does get officially released and all that, and when it's okay to talk about, where it's
If
like,
yeah, it I'll never be able to reveal.
oh, okay, maybe you can
Sorry,
tell
I
me.
told you you'd be disappointed.
No,
But
no,
it
it's
was a
okay.
great day for me.
I love that mystery. I love that mystery part of it. So that is so cool, Hannah. That is really, really amazing. Now it's piqued my interest. Like, what was it? What was
I
it?
know. I just dropped that one. I never thought, no, I can't. But my last, actually, and my last of the top five is I admit similar in nature. It's that for the stage play, I actually decided to choose the production of Cinderella that
Oh,
I was cast as Cinderella, and it got shut down because of the pandemic, and it got
oh, that's
canceled.
right. I remember that on Facebook. That's
The
right.
reason
That's
the
right.
reason that it's in my top five is because every single part of that process was everything I'd ever wanted from a production. My prince, Spenst, I miss you, Spenst. He was so great. He's so tall, handsome, gorgeous voice. We were such good friends. He's not in Tokyo anymore, unfortunately. My director was wonderful. The cast was so good, so well cast, and we were creating something truly magical. We're talking fairy tale. And we were crying. And of course we're
Oh,
crying because if you actually tell the Cinderella story, it's deeply impactful. There's a reason why we keep telling it and telling it.
yeah.
It was such a sincere, magical, gorgeous production. And there was a real feeling and energy around it from the whole team, everybody working on it, the production team and the cast. And it was so much, once again, it was like, oh my gosh, there's a huge, when I got we were doing the Rodgers and Hammerstein version that had been on Broadway,
Yeah.
the Broadway edition of the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella musical, and digging through the script. I won't go into detail, but there was so much of it that's like, this is so much, again, my soul.
Yeah.
I am in a position where is not that common as a professional actor, where I am basically going to be able to give my soul on stage. And but then the pandemic hit, and it was like the
Man.
slow creep of it, right? You
Yeah.
feel it coming, and you disappear into this world of magic and fairy tale during rehearsals, but then you step outside and it's like there is this cloud
Yeah.
coming through and the threat of it. And my very last rehearsal before everything got shut down was the slipper scene.
Oh man. Oh.
The very last rehearsal was us working on the slipper scene where he finds her.
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, my prince carrying me off stage so that we can then go off and do the finale with the wedding thing. That was the scene. And
Wow.
it was, and then next rehearsal, I'm walking out the door with my dance shoes to practice the ballroom again, and I get the message that there will be no rehearsal today. And that
Wow.
was, and at the time we thought it was going to be a suspended. We thought, okay, we'll do it next year.
Yeah.
Everything just paused. That was what we thought. But then, as you know,
Hmm.
things did not wrap up so fast. And it's so why is it in top five? It's one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Like in terms of my like professionally, like in terms
Yeah.
of as an actress. I think it's because it taught me digging into that story and then having that happen to it forced me to actually deal with how do you reach light and hope and faith Like, how do fairy tales exist? How does pixie dust still exist
Yeah.
when you have something so dark
Yeah.
looming over you? In the Broadway version of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, there are two balls. There is a the initial ball
Hmm.
where she goes, but then there's also she has to go back to
Hmm.
the banquet to talk to the prince, and that's where you get her coming out in the dress that her stepsister gave her, and that's the scene where in Act Two where the stepmother rips it up,
That's right.
and
Oh,
there's a
that's
scene
right.
where the fairy godmother or Cinderella's on the ground and she's just done because
Yeah.
she had hope and now she doesn't. And the fairy godmother comes in and Cinderella says, "But my life," like she's just she's trying to, "You have to go. The prince needs you." The prince is like, "No, you don't understand my life." And she goes, "It's your life." That she goes, "Yes, but it's your life."
Oh.
And she sings this song, there is music in you.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they gather up all of the tattered pieces of her dress and they throw them into the air. And then out comes a golden ball gown
Oh
out
God.
of the shreds of the dress. This is the story that I was practicing, contemplating, and meditating on during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I had to go so deep into myself about that and about what's my, what is the golden gown
Yeah.
right now? For me, for everyone, like how do you, because that point of that moment in the show is Cinderella is saying the dress is ripped, and she's like, well, you'll never know if there's a golden dress unless you gather up the shreds of it.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think that in spite of the devastation of losing the show itself, I had already rehearsed it. I mean, we rehearsed the whole thing. I had the show, like I had experienced this, and then it kind of carried me through and it transformed me as a person. It forced me to have to really grapple with parts of myself, parts of my past in deeply personal ways, grapple with what story means, why we keep telling stories, the same stories. Why do we keep doing Cinderella? Why do we keep doing Beauty and the Beast? Like, why do we keep slaying dragons? Like, I spent the years since then in a very new state as a performer. And the reason that I made a YouTube video was because I had made a YouTube channel to promote Cinderella.
Mhm.
But there was no Cinderella, so I had a YouTube channel. So my brother and I were like, let's sing a song like we used to when we were young. Like you said, he used to perform. So we sang a song that got seen by the right person, that showed it to another person. That
Oh,
meant I got to sing a song for an anime that actually opened doors for me to get to move into a new stage of my career when it comes to storytelling, which goes all the way back to why Japan. It was anime that started it.
yeah.
So so that's the cycle. That's the circle around. That's the anime brought me here through an amazing piece of art. And then to get to go back in and to participate in that industry, knowing what it means to people, knowing that there are other people who see these stories and that means so much to them.
Yeah.
And so that is my golden dress. That's
I
my
was gonna
ball.
say,
And that's why I'm Redheaded Cinderella. Actually, I'm not even joking. That's why my handle on all of my socials is Redheaded Cinderella, is because of that production. And I'm gonna keep it because I'm the redheaded stepchild of Cinderella's. My ball never happened. But that's why that's my top five. That's why
oh,
that's
that's
why
a
I
great
choose the
top
show
five.
that nobody ever saw.
Well, that's a great top five, and thank you for answering that question too. I was like, so that's why they're the red Cinderella. I was wondering about that, but yeah,
That's it.
that's your golden dress. I was gonna say that is your golden dress.
That's the golden
Like,
dress. And I do have a golden dress. I wore it to Disney as Belle.
yes, I loved it too. Gosh, and man, thank you so much for coming on my podcast and just sharing just your experience. And oh my gosh, I wish we had more time. I mean, I
I'm
can,
so sorry. I talked
no,
so
no.
long. I
No,
talked
I
so
was going to
long.
say, no, this has been fantastic. And I would love to stay in touch too, because thankfully,
Oh
we're
yeah,
friends on,
of course.
on social media, Facebook, Instagram. And yeah, and if there's any other projects that are coming your way that you're able to talk about or share, I would love to, help, promote them or share them on
Thank
social media,
you.
things like that.
As
But
I said, you can keep your eyes open this week. There will be something dropping this week.
Yes.
which is exciting. Yay. We always like it when things drop. And there's other things that I'm still waiting to come out. You know how you record something like then and then you kind of just sit and go, oh, okay, when are they going to release it? And so,
That's
but
right.
there are things.
Now, and also one thing I want to ask before it's kind of a strange question, but maintaining and helping your voice. So the last tidbit, and so say if there's an example, you have a cold or sore throat,
Hmm.
and you're scheduled to perform in the booth, and
Hmm.
any tips on how you've been able to manage through that, just from a practical
Yes,
actor's
I
tip for
do because you don't get to cancel sessions. I mean, under very, very strong extreme circumstances, yes, but generally speaking, I have had to work on a cold a lot. My first tip is buy actual ginger root. Slice it up, put it in a and put it in a pot with boiling water, boil that out, and then use that liquid to make a tea. A throat coat tea is great, or just add some honey to it, stick it in your thermos, have that with you the entire session. Um, Also before and after. The other thing that's absolutely essential is hydration because you
Mhm.
want all things to flow. If you have allergies, take your antihistamine. Just do it. Know when to do it, and then hydrate, hydrate. Warm-ups. The thing that keeps you sustainable is training your voice when you're not working. You even if it's just voice acting, speaking, you still need to have a very flexible instrument. And so knowing how to give yourself enough in the morning of a warm up and also if you have a cold, showers, get all the gunk out.
Yeah.
Sounds gross. Go in the shower, get all the steam, get all the gunk, steam, and then things to avoid. Uh, Avoid if you're in the booth any dairy products or
Mhm.
things that are
Yeah.
going to make it more phlegmy.
Hmm.
Um, And people are going to hate this. And it depends on how it affects your throat. But I would say avoid caffeine
Yeah.
if you're in that place, just because it tends to tighten the folds. Then again, maybe that's what you want. I don't know what you're recording that day, but I'd say, um, but
And
you can never ever discount how powerful a good warm up routine is, combined with good hydration and good sleep.
oh, that's
Like
perfect.
sleep is if you know you've got a massive session the next day, sleep and don't drink.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Don't drink.
And
It
this
will dehydrate you. So don't do it if you know you're going to be doing a big thing. I know that's not fun, everybody, but
that's true. And then also does that
those
include
are our
sugar?
instruments.
Like sugar, to like avoid sugary things that can coat your vocal cords
Yes,
too?
well, it's interesting because a lot of voice actresses here in Tokyo will actually use apple juice. There is to, how do I say, lubricate.
Okay.
So some people talk about if you have sort of a bit of a burr or like a little bit of interference, there are some people who recommend apple juice. I've never used that because I usually use throat coat tea, honey, ginger, all that. Um, and for the people it works with, from what I understand, it really works for them. There are people it might not work with. Personally, for me, I do avoid sugars.
Mhm.
Like I avoid sugary drinks generally when I'm doing a lot of vocal stuff. So that piece of information, I would say, like any advice anybody gives you about how to work your body and your instrument, you're going to have to kind of see how you respond to all of these things. You're going to have to see yourself what makes the most sense for you and what you need most. Maybe you're the kind of person who over warms up. So what you actually need to do is warm up a little bit less, but make it short and sweet and just, because you don't want to tire yourself out and all of
Yeah.
that.
Or strain your
Yeah.
voice where it's like you're practicing so much and it's
Mhm.
like, I can't talk. It's like, well,
Yeah. But that's what I would recommend. And the longer that you do the things, the more time you spend just getting to know your instrument and what it needs, the more you yourself will figure out how best to take care of it in the process. Funny story about Big River, since we brought back to that's where we met in that
yeah.
production. Funny story about that is that we were all high schoolers, and I believe both Huck and Jim were high schoolers from my
Yes.
school.
Uh-huh.
And they were my boys. I was very good friends with both those boys. And so every single show, I brought them two massive thermoses, one for each of them, for Huck and Jim, of throat coat tea.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Every single show, they each had like a jug. of throat coat tea that I was providing for my boys because they were my friends in that production. And then I remember when the gym, Desmond Anthony, hey
Yes.
Desmond,
Yeah.
hey, Desmond Anthony, who's got a voice of an angel. Um, he was also in a production of Joseph
Hmm.
at Fountain Square.
Yeah.
And when I found out that he was in a production of Joseph, I'm like, I'm just going to bring you some of my tea. And I think I did, at least at one of the performances. So it's
Yeah.
lovely to see all that crew still doing stuff and being active. And it's lovely to hear from you, Reed,
Yeah.
because it's, you know, I love my hometown. I really love my hometown as much as I love Japan. So it's nice to be able to talk to somebody from the old country.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. And that's fantastic. Again, thank you so much for coming on my show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me talk so much. It's a lot. I just
Oh, it's an honor. It's an honor. I appreciate this so much. So again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching and listening to my conversation with actress, singer, and voice actress Hannah Grace. If you have enjoyed this episode of Reed's Conversations, be sure to click the like button and subscribe button on my YouTube channel. That way you will be notified for future upcoming episodes.